Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Chaitanya. I'm the marketing manager here at QuestionPro, and I would be introducing you to today's webinar on understanding consumer behavior for online purchases. Today, as we sit down here to discuss about online preferences of consumers, let me give you a brief insight of what we'll cover in today's webinar, starting from obviously the consumer behavior on an e-commerce platform, how the factors affect the purchase decision and adoption cycle of a consumer, capturing in the moment consumer feedback, how important is word of mouth in online purchases, and how you can mitigate those negative word of mouth and grow positive referrals for your consumers. Joining me here today are customer experience experts Mark Salisbury and our special guest Dr. Ashita Agarwal. Mark has over a decade of experience in customer experience and market research, working for and with Fortune 100 companies. He has helped Verizon Wireless implement a customer experience solution across USA. Mark also has helped start Research Intelligence, an innovative solution that allows brands to experience their customers using streaming videos and speech to text. Dr. Ashita has around 14 years of corporate and academic experience. She's worked in the areas of business and marketing strategy at Reliance Communications, branding and communications for education sector, and has also consulted various management projects and organizations in developing marketing communication strategies. She's also a member of All India Management Association and Advertising Standards Council of India. So without further ado, let me introduce you all to both the speakers to take this off.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Chaitanya, for that introduction. And this is Mark Salisbury. Dr. Ashita, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be joining you here for this webinar today. Everyone in the audience, thank you so much for joining us as well. We're looking forward to sharing some best practices with you. We'd love for you to walk away today with some data points that can help you in your current endeavors or even your future business endeavors. We understand we've got some students on the line with us today. Welcome to you. Welcome to you, current entrepreneurs and future entrepreneurs. So let's go ahead and get started.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Chaitanya.
Very good.
So welcome all. Welcome all to today's webinar, and we're trying to look at that how consumers react and behave with respect to the e-commerce in India, which is at the very, very nascent stages, so as to say, as compared to the Western world. If you look at the e-commerce in India, we are a $16 billion market in India with over 354 million users, but growing at the rate of 34% in the last 5 years. So we are seeing that e-commerce is tending to become very, very huge in India. Moving on to the next slide. If you look at the e-commerce behavior in India, typically people buy from 3 different formats. One is the independent retailer, which we generally know as a kirana stores or mom and pop stores. Small stores at every nook and corner of the localities in India, where you can buy anything from a mobile phone charging SIM to the groceries or to the personal care products. And these have been the most common and the most sought after retail formats in India, followed by organized brick and mortar or the modern trade, which we call the likes of Walmart. In the Western world, we have big bazaars or food bazaars kind of outlets, Spencer's in India, which are still very small but growing. E-com or e-marketplace is minute as compared to these two, but slowly gaining a lot of traction, and it has kind of become an integrated retail outlet place for the companies today to formulate their distribution strategy. However, the e-com place works very differently from any other retail format, and therefore requires a little different understanding of consumers and how they make their decisions when they're buying online. Moving on. So a little bit about how consumers behave and what are they doing. So, if you look at the e-com platform, typically there are two platforms through which e-commerce is accessed by Indian consumers. One is the mobile phone. So over 250 million people access e-commerce through their mobile phones. Over half of the active users are actually rural. And when I say rural, we're talking about almost 74% of the Indian marketplace, because rest is urban, but 74% is still rural, the tier C and the rural conglomerates. Over 16% of consumers in this entire marketplace are online, and 20 million have purchased online. It's a very small number as compared to more than a billion population we have in India, but that's because most of the places do not have access to internet. However, with the smartphones becoming very common and accessible, we are seeing that e-commerce is slowly going to become very, very large in India. People who are accessing e-commerce on their laptops is still very small, and the growth primarily is coming from the mobile phone, and it's becoming apparent for every marketer to build a mobile app for their products to be sold online. Moving on further to understand the consumers who are there online today. Yeah, this is a little more information on how many people are using phones. So as I said, about 90% research is still done on the phone. So the scenario is typically like people are now shopping on the go. So they are traveling from work to office to home, etc. And they would tend to look at the mobile phones to do their little bit of research. Only 54% are purchasing on mobile phone. I mean, this is only 50%, almost the 50% of market, but it's very big, because considering that we are an economy where internet is still not having as much penetration. However, mobile phone penetration is more than 90%. In one of the research which we did, we found that the mobile phone penetration is actually more than the television penetration in India, which is becoming a driving force. Moving on to the next slide to understand the consumers now. So most of these consumers who are online are the young consumers. So we in India have a demographic dividend benefit. More than half of our population is below the age of 30 years, and that's the population which is currently online. So over a third of internet users are in the age group of 15 to 34, young adults, teenagers who are still forming preferences and looking for a lot of variety and aspirational products. They are very fashion conscious. They are moved by the social and peer conformity. So my friend is buying online. It's almost like a status to go on the same platform and check what my friend is buying, so that I should also be seen in that league. My friend is buying a Levi's jeans and she bought it online. I think I should also go and check on that how much is the price for. Am I getting a better deal there? Am I buying something more expensive at the retail outlet? So, there are constant questions which are coming in here, and this age group is looking for a social and peer conformity. They want to be in that basket where they're considered smart yet value conscious. They're also very aspirational, and that's then comes the role of the multinational brands, the global brands, which may not be accessible to the brick and mortar formats, but are now becoming more and more accessible through the e-com platforms. This is also the consumer base, which has a peak smartphone usage. Almost every second audience in this age group today owns a smartphone, which is becoming one of the major factors towards the growth of e-commerce in this age group. Moving on. Now, we did a little research, exploratory research among the consumers to find out that what brings them for the online platform for purchase or exploring on the option. One is the ease of search. So scenarios that when I go to the retail formats or when I go to the open marketplaces, I have to go from one shop to the other. Weather becomes a constraint. If it's a brick, the modern outlet, I only have few options and I look for my products among the few options. But when I'm on the online platform, I can open 4 windows, one of the direct vendor, one of the e-com, like Flipkart or Snapdeal, or many others, and see what brands are available. So I want to buy a new watch. It's not that I have to go to a Titan showroom alone and see what are the options. On the online platform today, I can see Titan, I can see all the other brands of Titan, I can also see Dassault, I can also see Oris and many, many other brands. The product assortment, therefore, is very huge to choose from. I can make immediate comparisons on price, on quality, on the variety, on the colors. The other two important factors, which are very, very, typical of Indian market, but very important contributors in the Indian market, is one, free shipping. Nobody wants to pay for the shipping of the product. But in India, it's typically a bigger issue. So if a consumer sees that they are being made to pay for the shipping, they tend to move out of the platform immediately. However, if they have a free shipping option, they are basically more ready to take on the risk because they're still in that initial stages of purchase decision where they are learning the platform and try to assimilate the platform. So free shipping becomes very critical, and cash on delivery. So Indians, a lot of Indians in tier 2, tier 3 towns do not have access to credit cards. They cannot make transactions online, and cash on delivery therefore becomes a critical challenge for them. So a lot of housewives, a lot of women out there who now want to experiment with brands, who have to buy online, they may not have the credit cards, but they still want to see the product, and for them COD becomes a very good option. Also, we are a very, very risk-aversive kind of consumers. We would like to see our product, touch our product, feel our product before we really pay for it. So even if I have an access to credit card, I have an online transaction facility, I am still hesitant to pay for something which I don't have in hand. And therefore, typically, I would look at those transactions or options wherein I have a cash on delivery options. And therefore, these last two, which is free shipping and cash on delivery, become for the consumers and for the marketeers basically to put their products online. Moving on.
That's great. Thank you very much, Dr. Ishida, for sharing that. And all that behavior out there, all those clicks, all that research that's being done, we're seeing that clients that in this space, the e-tailers, if you will, that they want to understand those behaviors. So how do you find out what's going on? How do you find out that path to purchase? Information that's helpful. Well, one of those make sense ways is that you're using analytics. You're using web analytics to track the consumer as they come to your site. What keywords did they search for to find your site? What path did they take through the site? There's a lot of good data out there. So you could use tools like Omniture. You can use Google Analytics. That's certainly a very popular way to understand your web analytics. On the other side of that is you've got all this great data about what's happening, but these brands want to understand the why behind the what. They want to get to what were you looking for? Were you able to find what you were looking for? What did you set out to accomplish? Were we able to meet your needs today? And so what we are seeing here on this screen is that we're seeing e-tailers who are putting this call to action for feedback directly on their website. Now, this is a great complement to the analytics tools such as Google Analytics. You get the quant, you get the qual to really understand the consumer here. And there are a few ways that you can do this. So one of the best practices is to have this pop-up for feedback show up based on which pages are being visited. Okay, you might have it not show up here, but it shows up here. The other way to do it, another way is to have that feedback request show up after they've been on the page for a certain amount of time, okay? And then after certain triggers, so it could be after they've added something to the cart, or maybe after something's been in the cart for a certain amount of time before they would purchase, but they have not yet purchased. So that could be another way, or even post-purchase, but they're still on your website. So this is one way to gather feedback and understand more about the data that you're collecting on the analytics side to really understand consumer behavior. I'm going to take a quick aside here and let everyone know, as Dr. Ishida and I are talking today, we encourage you to submit your questions right here in the GoToWebinar control panel. You'll see a section for questions. I see some questions that are rolling in right now, so please keep those coming. We're going to hold those for the end, and then Dr. Ishida and I will address as many of those questions as we can get to in the latter part of this webinar. So let me go ahead and go to the next slide here for you, Dr. Ishida. That should be coming up in just a second.
Now we move on to the, after the brief introduction of what the consumers are and how they behave, it's important to understand that where is this behavior coming from. So moving again from the exploratory research and the methods which Mark was describing, we picked on certain insights from the market and see that how is it affecting the consumers online. So few statements, like I'll buy my products from the supermarket because it guarantees me the checkout in less than a minute. So, what we're seeing is that the young consumers specifically are actually becoming less and less tolerant to the bottlenecks of the brick and mortar or the independent retailer outlets. They're becoming more demanding when it comes to the experience of being at the outlet. So today, if I have to stand in the checkout queue for, let's say, about 20 minutes on an early Sunday morning, it makes me feel restless. I mean, I typically feel, oh my God, why did I come here? I could actually go on Grofers or Big Basket, etc., and put my list out there, and I didn't need to kind of waste my time standing in this queue. Also, it's very hot, the weather is not nice, it's very crowded. So all these kind of experience elements are coming into the decision making for the consumers today, which is making them less and less tolerant to the bottlenecks, which becomes a very critical point for the marketeers to understand that how do they now manage these experiences at the retail formats. Second, consumers are now becoming accustomed to the multi-stage shopping. So today I'm not using only a brick and mortar store or a kirana store or an e-commerce store, but I'm looking at three basic options in the entire purchase cycle. So I'll go to, I'm going to go to, let's say, Shoppers Stop, look at what's available there, try on my size, see what suits me, what fits me, make a note of the price, come back home, go online and check out that for the same products which I like at the store, what are the prices being offered online by the Shoppers Stop and by the Flipkart. And then I have my siblings, my parents, my husband, my wife, my spouse, whoever, to also help me in the decision making. I mean, they may not be available to accompany me for shopping all the time, but when I'm at home, it's a luxury of time and space, and therefore more and more people are involved in decision making. And I'm also looking for the best deal available. And also, I heard of a consumer say that one of the sneakers from Reebok was 10,000 rupees when I went to the retail outlet. I just looked at the size, came online, and I could get the same product in 6,000 rupees. What a good deal to do. Therefore, today e-commerce is actually making the entire experience of shopping a little multi-stage and bringing in a lot of other elements out there, and has to be looked at as one additional distribution network and not just the only distribution network. Our last point today is, the e-commerce has also actually made consumers more skeptical. So in the previous era, before e-commerce became common, we would go to the online store in the sale season or the discount season, the off season. We typically got very excited about seeing a 50% cut. Okay, the product which was available at 100 rupees is now available at 50, and it would make me feel very good. But today, they go on the online thing, and across the year, they see Amazon saying the MRP of the product is 250, but the Amazon price is 179, and they strike off the 250 to put in 179. Now, that's where I feel is more authenticity, because I know that the MRP is 250 and I'm getting a genuine discount. Whereas at the stores, people have started feeling that, the MRP is jacked up, and then the discounts are given to basically sell a product at the origin. So I've become very skeptical of the discounts at the retail formats, the brick and mortar formats, but I trust online more when it comes to value, when it comes to sound, when it comes to the product's benefit being given to priming, which is actually a very, very big deal for the marketers today if you look at. Moving on further. Now, based on all these, based on our research and exploratory research, found out that the typical consumer decision-making model of need identification, information search, evaluation of alternatives, etc., is not applicable in the e-com domain. That kind of model is true for the brick and mortar or the traditional formats, and therefore I'm proposing a very different consumer adaptation framework for the e-commerce platform. So what I'm saying is there are three stages how consumers kind of take a decision, starting from the exploration stage to diversification stage and then the adaptation stage. So if you look at the exploration stage, the first part of it is the legacy channel. So consumers are more accustomed to buy from the traditional legacy channels of where they have been making their purchase, which is Kirana store or the modern trade outlets. And now they're basically looking at e-commerce as one of the additional ones for information search or for the final decision making in terms of the purchase. So as I was explaining even before in my earlier slides, that if a product is available to me cheaper on the online platform, that becomes my final purchase platform, whereas all the information and evaluation was done on the brick and mortar. However, if e-com is giving me more options, more variety, I look for more information there. So consumer durables, I go on the e-com and I make all my information search there, but I finally go down to Chroma to pick the television I want to because the price is similar. So they are moving from only the traditional outlets to including e-com as one of the outlets in the multi-channel decision-making process. And the three elements which are critical in this movement is product assortment. So more variety available, ease of search online. I can just type the brand, I can just type my specification, have access to more information, and cash on delivery. So if a marketer is ready to have the product, pay for the product at the time and it is delivered, I typically would be more open to having e-commerce as a final last mile delivery or the purchase process. The consumers who move from exploration stage, now when they go on to the second stage of diversification, that's when they move from a multi-channel state to a separate channel stage. That's when they start building preferences. That when I have to buy a book, I would go online because I know that at Amazon I get the best deal in terms of buying the books. I don't have to spend too much of time at the bookstore looking out for what I want. I know exactly what I want. I'm going to go to Amazon and buy all my books, all my music. Or accessories. If there's any gifting which I have to do in the accessories, I may go to a one particular e-com platform. I want to buy something which is very ethnic. I go to handsoffindia.com because that gives me the most authentic Indian products. So now consumers start having separate preferences and they look out for a particular website to make a particular kind of a purchase process. Now, what are the critical elements there? Price. Yes, you have to offer me good value for money. If you don't, I don't come to you. Even if it means I'm facing inconvenience of going to the open market and searching for my product. Free shipping, I don't want to pay for the shipping because the entire point that I have this convenience of sitting at home and making my purchase process is also that I'm saving a lot of my money in terms of the travel cost, psychological cost. And reordering, you help me reorder my products every time. So if I'm making my grocery purchases every month, the next time I log on to you, I should get a prompt as to what I want. Today I don't have to carry that list with me every time and make a tick mark note of what I've ordered or not because the platform is helping me do all the reordering. And the last and the most evolved stage in the entire process is the adaptation stage, wherein consumers look at e-commerce as their most preferred platform. They're indifferent to the price. They are ready to pay a little more for the convenience which comes with the e-commerce. They believe that the value they get from e-commerce is much more and therefore they stick onto it. However, this is a very evolved stage and which comes because one, you have a lot of positive reviews which come in. So these kind of consumers typically are the ones who look more for social media reviews, positive reviews. They're the ones who are on the mobile phones, the smartphones, and are looking primarily for the convenience as their major purchase criteria. So this is a model which I'm proposing for the e-com, and I'm going to take on in my next slide as to how the reviews basically affect the decisions online. So moving on.
And actually, Dr. Ashita, before we go to that next slide, we're going to cover just a few slides here, if you don't mind, on some methodology for getting that, because this is a great lead into those online reviews, because social is becoming more and more important, right? We know that consumers trust the recommendations or even the warnings that they get from people that they know, right? Those close circles, you trust it highly, and then it kind of goes out from there. But even far more than they trust the message from a brand, they're going to trust messages from those people in their social circles. And so we've seen this here at QuestionPro, this need to have a positive social presence. So one of the important things, once the product is in hand, is getting that feedback. So now you've gone beyond the purchase. So how do you get feedback from the customers on that experience? What if, for instance, they've received something that has not met their expectations? How do you find out about that? Well, once it's in hand, there are a few ways to do that. You can send an immediate feedback invitation via email. That can be done automatically. In fact, it doesn't matter if you're using QuestionPro. There are probably other solutions out there, but QuestionPro certainly has this nailed down, is the ability to trigger those surveys that go out immediately following a transaction. Now, this could be an off-the-shelf piece of software that our clients are using. Salesforce is a very common one, but it could also be something that's homegrown in the business. But you want those surveys to be going out immediately when the transaction is placed. Or another way to do this is to delay it. So transaction happens today. You can see this X number of days after the product arrival. So we know that that product will get there within 5 days. We know that for this product type that the use case is that they won't have a good sense for it for maybe a few days in there. Therefore, we'll set that feedback to go out 8 days later, for instance. So this is a good way to get feedback after the product has arrived, after the consumer's had an ability to try it on, to make sure that it works for them. You want to ask for that feedback, and I'll show you why that becomes so important. But before I do that, one more good way to do this is inviting feedback in the package or on the package, okay? What I mean by that is the call to action can be on a card, a feedback card that's in the package. It can include the URL to the survey. Another popular way to do this, especially with prevalence of mobile devices and connectivity, is doing it directly via the mobile handset. QR codes are a popular way to launch and get to a feedback system. And then another popular way is by SMS, okay? We won't go too deep into that right now, but just know that those are ways to get feedback from your customers. Now, why is that so important? Well, in the moment, somebody's having an experience, and if that's not a good experience, they can share that out with a number of people. It used to be that we might tell a friend when we go meet them for coffee or go meet them for lunch, hey, I had a bad experience with this company. In today's world of social media and connectedness, it's so easy to go out to a place like Facebook and complain about a brand. And now instead of that message being received by a few people, it's received by hundreds or thousands. It goes out to Twitter, it can spread like wildfire, and that can be a lot of damage to the brand. So one of the best practices for mitigating that risk to the brand and to the business is to follow up immediately with dissatisfied customers. As soon as you receive that feedback, you want to follow up with them and resolve their issues, hear from them. You want to be able to do that return exchange. You want to be able to get the right product into their hands or find something that is a better fit. You want to take responsibility for the situation that happened here. And so in our software, we actually have this all automated so that you can have a one-on-one conversation with your dissatisfied customers before they go and shout that negative experience from the rooftops and let other people know about it, okay? And so the way that we enable that is by sending an immediate notification to the business that you have a dissatisfied customer. We also expose that on the dashboard where they can see all of their data, all of their feedback. Here's your dissatisfied. It's very prominent on the dashboard. Another best practice is that you follow up very quickly. If somebody has received something and it's not the right product, or maybe the quality was poor and they're dissatisfied, you don't want to wait a week to follow up with that person. It's better to follow up today, okay? And so we start a time-based countdown for the business that they need to follow up with that customer within a specified amount of time, and that's customizable. In the case of Verizon, from where I manage customer experience at Verizon, we set it at 48 hours. That was reasonable for an organization that's operating, 7 days a week for normal business hours, we could follow up within 2 days, okay? But you don't want that to linger. You don't want people to stew about it. And then also you want to create transparency. So if someone is not resolving an issue with your customer within your organization, it needs to be escalated, okay? So this is automatically built into our system where you will know for certain that issues are being resolved. If not, it will be escalated to the next level up. So there's visibility created there. It creates some great accountability within the business. Now, on the other side of that, what would we want to do with our delighted customers? They get the product, they're excited about it, and you don't want to miss out on that opportunity. They're in the moment, they've experienced the product, they've taken time to give you feedback. You want to propel them. You want to put a rocket booster, if you will, a jetpack on their back, and let them go tell others. Give them a megaphone to share those positive things about your brand with others who would be potential buyers. Okay? So we don't believe that a survey thank you page should be a dead end for those customers. Let's get them to the next place where they can deliver value for you. We call this promoter amplification. Take that positive sentiment and allow them to share it right in the moment. So effectively what happens here is once they've crossed a threshold of sentiment, we recommend very high marks, then they will see options to share on Twitter and Facebook. Could be Amazon or going out to Google Plus or TripAdvisor, wherever you want those positive reviews to show up, wherever it's important for your brand, we'll get those customers out there to the right places to leave those reviews and grow your influence online. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to your next slide here, Dr. Ishida, where you can talk more about the use of those reviews, how people are leveraging those once the reviews are out on these sites.
Yeah. So this comes from an experimental research which me and a few of my colleagues are doing, which tries to understand that how people process information when they are making online purchases. So there were two product categories which we chose. One was apparel and one was the mobile phones or the electronic category. And the consumers were exposed to three different kinds of reviews to see that which kind of reviews do they find more credible and which gives them more confidence to make the purchase. So the three kinds of reviews were: one, the product-based reviews. So like the mobile phone has X amount of memory, or the weight is so and so, or the screen size is so and so. So very factual, very product-based. The second kind of reviews were the social reviews, which is that if I have an iPhone 6s in my hand, my friends look up to me. I feel good. I feel that I'm a part of an Apple family. So kind of how you relate to your social circle by using a certain kind of a brand. And the final reviews were about the user experience, which is more self, which is how I feel about using or wearing that kind of product. So, Levi's, when I wear Levi's, I'm actually very comfortable. I just feel that I'm in my own skin kind of a thing. So that's other user-based reviews. So when the consumer were exposed to these three kind of reviews, they rated the reviews to kind of tell that what made the purchase more credible and what made them more confident. So moving on to the results briefly of the study, we saw that. So the next slide. That online, basically the product-based reviews win overall. So consumers are looking for social reviews and user expertise review, but what gives them confidence to make a purchase across the categories are product-based reviews. Men and women basically value these when purchasing any kind of a product. However, one of the stereotypes which was broken was that women value more product-based reviews when buying fashion. So typically it's thought that when women are buying fashion, they would look for style, they would look for how they feel, they would look for how their friends think, they would look. No, when women are making online purchases, there's a huge difference, or significant difference between how they look at the product-based reviews or the other two kind of reviews, and they basically go by the product-based reviews. So it's a very big myth breaker and a very big diversion as compared to their behavior offline. So product features are more important than the advertising stories, which typically come out of emotions, about of how people relate to products and the brands. And the entire results of this particular research is kind of coming down to a conclusion that marketeers today cannot look at the published research or the insights which are available of the traditional retail to make their marketing strategies for the online retail. They need to study the online market completely differently to be able to make the decisions there. Moving on. The final, from what we've spoken about, the consumers are looking for these kind of things. One of the vital and the trend which is coming, and this is for the marketeers now, besides what we have spoken, is that see this slide, and these are the most searched words over the last 3 years on Google. 2003, the only online platform was Flipkart, which was at number 3. 2014, Snapdeal also enters, make it 2. 2015, the 3 big e-com daddies in India are on the Google search words, with Flipkart being on the top. So today consumers are basically searching for the e-com platforms on Google, whereas they're looking for your brands on these platforms. So what is an implication for the marketeers here? That you just do not need the Google AdWords strategy. I'm not saying you don't need that at all. You need that, but that's not sufficient. What you need today is a e-com search word strategy, because today consumers, if they have to buy a camera, they are not going to type Canon or Nikon on Google. They are going to go to Amazon and type Canon or Nikon out there. So if your brand is not figuring there, then you have a problem. And therefore, your search word strategy, your entire marketing or the social media strategy today has to move out of only the Google AdWords to basically the e-com AdWords, because e-com has become the new search platform for your brands today. To just take an example in the next slide here is that typically what I said is, if a consumer is looking for a Canon camera, you need to tell them, okay, if you find this, you also need this. By the way, the consumers who were looking for Canon also looked at Nikon and all these cameras from Nikon. Now this is where your Google AdWords strategy is coming. So if Nikon makes, fails to make a presence out there on this particular screen, it loses an opportunity for the consumer to evaluate their brand. Because the consumer has looked at Canon, must have done some offline search or the reviews-based kind of search and came down to that. But this is your one opportunity to give a consumer an option to convert and see, okay, let me see if I have something in Nikon which is as good as what I'm just about to purchase. And this is where your entire new Google AdWords strategy becomes very, very important. And this is the one vital lesson which I would propose for the marketeers. Moving on.
Okay, this is good. Thank you very much, Dr. Ashita, for sharing that. We can move into a question and answer time now. I know that Chaitanya is going to, or she's been reviewing, while we've been talking, she's been reviewing some of the questions that have been coming in. So we have some good ones out there. Chaitanya, would you like to offer up some questions that we can field here?
Yes, Mark. So our first question here is, in case of apparel industry, the product offered in retail store and that offered in the e-com platform are mainly different. Are the brands letting go the profits by offering different product assortments in different platforms?
Subha, can I take this question?
Yes, please do. Thank you.
So basically, marketers are looking at a two-pronged strategy here. They offer the products which are available online, offline, also on the online platform. But yes, there's a different kind of a merchandise planning which is happening only for the online platform, because there could be a different kind of a consumer which you are looking at. So now also there's a problem of retail space. So like Veramoda. Now, if they're in the Shoppers Stop, they have a limited store space wherein they can put in certain kind of products. Also, when you're talking about the retail store, it typically has a capture area. So I know that the consumers from the 10 kilometers kind of a radius are going to come to my platform to make a purchase, which I'm saying is a retail store. And therefore, over time, using the data analytics, I've figured out what sells most, and that's what is available. Wherein, the moment I'm on e-com, I'm looking at the open word out there. I'm not looking at that 10-kilometer radius, and therefore I have to basically put in my best-selling products. across the segment which I'm targeting. And hence we see a certain kind of a variation in terms of the product assortment. But I won't say that they're letting go of the profit something. It's just a completely different segment and hence a completely different assortment which is required. I hope I'm able to answer the question.
Yeah, that's great. I don't have anything to add. Chaitanya, do you have another
Yes,
question that you'd like
yes.
to
I
ask?
have many for you, Mark and Ashita, so I think we'll take one at a time. So this one talks about our recent discussion on 4 factors that we discussed, which drives site visits and purchases. And the listener here wants to know, what is the weightage of return policy as when we consider these factors?
Dr. Ashita?
Our research which we did not look at the return policy as in terms of the purchase criteria. Definitely it's not among the top 4 factors. It figured out in the top 10, but not the top 4. And also I think it's because return policy in India is not very common because we have cash on delivery. So what is happening is that the consumers have this cash on delivery option. The product comes to their doorsteps. They open the packet. They see whether it fits well. It's something which they had ordered. They do not like it. They return it right then and there, and they won't pay for it. But unlike the West, wherein you've already paid and you have a return policy wherein you have to ship back the product, is not something which is still very common in India, and I think primarily because of COD, which is cash on delivery. Mark, you would like to add on the Western perspective here?
Frankly, I don't have anything to add. That was a great explanation there. Thank you for answering that one.
Okay, so moving further, Mark, I think I have a product question here for you. So our listener says that many a times these e-commerce portals are not able to manage the traffic on the big sales day. So how do you deal with customers getting irate and the negative feedback that they receive?
Yeah. Um, the great way there is to capture that in the moment, and you've got things that aren't working. It's not always that the entire site is down, but there can be things that go haywire in that process. And so you want to be able to capture that feedback while people are on the site. You want to give them the ability to vent, importantly, because when people don't feel like they have the ability to share that with the business, that's when they go out to the review sites. That's when the social media goes, there's a lot of negativity on social media toward the brand, is because they haven't felt like they've had a place to vent. But if you show that you're listening, if there is that call to action, we care. In fact, that's one of the best practices too, is it's not just a survey, it's we care about you. Your voice matters to us. You're creating this personal connection with your consumer to let them know we really do want to hear from you. Programs like, I'm not sure if it'll be familiar to this audience as much, but there's an airline here in the U.S. that says that we listen, and their message is effectively, we care about you as a customer. When you open up the channels of communication with a customer, they're likely to share that with you and give you the grace, the opportunity to resolve an issue rather than taking that up the flagpole, if you will, taking it out to a public staged event. So that's what we would say is you would want to do is get that feedback in the moment, and then importantly, follow up with the customers right away to make sure that you're addressing their issues. You're letting them know that you've heard them. And I'll contrast this a little bit with the old way of surveys, frankly, the old way of customer feedback, which is the idea that when I give you feedback as a business, it probably goes into a black hole. Maybe nobody is ever going to even see it. And somebody back in the marketing, market research department might pull it and might review that data 3 months from now, but I'm never going to hear back. In today's age, the best practice is to follow up with them quickly and immediately, and I'll tell you, you will delight customers simply by showing them that you read their feedback and you followed up with them. That in and of itself is a delight factor, because people aren't expecting that feedback is going to someone in real time who's actually interested in following up with them and hearing more about the situation or seeking to resolve the situation. So thank you for asking that. Anything that you have to add to that, Dr. Ishida?
No, I think you've answered it.
Okay, very good.
All right, then let's take our last question, which is mostly an open-ended, and let's end the webinar with this one. So the listener says e-commerce, m-commerce, n-commerce, what next?
I'm going to let you take that one,
So
Dr.
Mark,
Ishida, please.
we are following the West there, right? So you had e-commerce before us, and now m-commerce and commerce. So what do you think is the trend going to be?
Yeah, I think that we're moving into a place of social commerce, really, and so it's not, is it on a handset or is it on, what kind of device is it on, but rather it is this idea that people are listening to one another. They're seeking out opinions from each other. So we're seeing more and more of this, which is people will go out to their social circles and they'll be seeking feedback. And as that becomes more and more accessible, we're seeing consumers rely on each other to be part of that purchase process. So we will see this. Someone will go out and say, I'm looking to replace my old camera. I'm looking for a new camera. We want to be able to do X, Y, and Z with it. The way that used to happen was you'd go into a brick and mortar store, you would consult with a representative, and they would show you the cameras, and there were your choices. In the new world, you go to Amazon, you go to Flipkart, you're doing research online. What we're seeing now is the idea that people are connected, and they're almost treating their circle, their social circle, as the sales representative, as the sales consultant. I want to know what you have to say about it, because that carries so much more weight. It's easy to get brand messages out there, but again, there's so much weight in that word of mouth through social circles, and as that becomes richer and richer, I believe that's where a lot of the future lies there, is in these brand ambassadors, how you leverage them as a brand, because people are seeking out the opinions of others around them to make those purchases.
Yeah. And I just like to add in here that in the Indian context, actually, it's not that e-com or m-com are replacing the traditional methods of buying and selling. So, the initial slides also showed that they're just additional elements in the entire purchase process. And consumer looks at it as one more option rather than typically as a replacement. So I would still hesitate to say that, it is another 10, 15 years, e-commerce can completely replace the modern trade or the independent retailers in India. But definitely, it's going to give them a very tough competition, and consumers are going to become more and more important in the coming days, because the entire thing would be managing the consumer experience and giving them the best of the value.
Wonderful. So, Chaitanya, I know that we're recording this and that we can send out a link for anybody who is unable to see it, or even for those who are interested in watching this again. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience?
Yes, Mark. So I believe we're at the end of the webinar, though we have a lot of questions coming in, but the time constraint will definitely allow us to send them an email, and we can give all the answers there through an email. Thank you, everybody, for attending this webinar. Please follow us on Twitter, have a look at our blog, visit us at questionpro.com/cx for any product-related queries. And thanks a lot, Dr. Ashita and Mark, for being such great hosts and having such insightful details to speak and discuss with our viewers.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Dr. Shi, for joining us here. It was certainly our pleasure to have you today. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you, Mark.
We look forward to the next one.
QuestionPro for this advice.
All right. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.